The bridge of the dauntless horizon was quiet. Captain Jiwoo stood at the viewport, watching Admiral Ket's remaining ships. They had pulled back, forming a wider circle around her vessel. It was a standoff, neither side willing to attack, both waiting to see what would happen next. "Captain," said Minji from her communication station, "we're receiving a new signal. It's coming from Admiral Ket's flagship." Jiwoo turned, surprised. "Put it through." The main screen lit up, but it wasn't Admiral Ket who appeared. Instead, a female Vraxian officer stood there. Her scales showed the telltale blue tint of transformation, and her eyes had the golden-brown color of the hybrids. "Captain Park," she said, her voice steady, "I am Sub-Commander Liss of the Imperial flagship Claw of Destiny. The transformation has reached our bridge." Jiwoo stepped closer to the screen. "What about Admiral Ket?" Liss's expression was grim. "The Admiral has locked himself in the command center with his most loyal officers. They are attempting to purge the ship's air systems and kill the nanites. But it's too late. Over 60% of our crew has already transformed." "Are you in control of the ship?" Jiwoo asked. "Partially," Liss replied. "We control most systems, but the Admiral still has access to weapons and engines. The situation is unstable." Behind Jiwoo, her officers exchanged worried glances. An unstable Vraxian warship with active weapons was dangerous for everyone. "What do you need from us?" Jiwoo asked. "Understanding," Liss said simply. "This transformation is happening faster than anyone expected. Many of us are struggling to adapt to our new thoughts, our new feelings. We need guidance," Jiwoo nodded. "This was always part of the plan, not just to transform the Vraxians physically, but to help them understand their new existence. The nanites changed DNA, but understanding had to come from communication and compassion. Squad leader Traz and his team can help," Jiwoo offered. "They've had more time to adjust to the changes. Would you allow them to come aboard your ship?" Liss considered this, then nodded. "Yes, that would be helpful. But there's something else you should know." She paused, looking uncomfortable. "Admiral Ket has sent a distress signal to the Imperial High Command. He's requesting reinforcements." A battle fleet. Jiwoo felt her heart sink. A battle fleet would mean dozens more warships, thousands more Vraxian soldiers. The nanites could transform them eventually, but not before they could destroy the dauntless horizon and hunt down the repository shuttle. "How long do we have?" she asked. 3 days, perhaps 4, Liss answered. "They would come from the Arcturus sector." Jiwoo turned to her tactical officer. "Sunwoo options." Sunwoo studied his console. "We could try to run, Captain. With the confusion in the Vraxian fleet, we might break through their blockade." "And then what?" Jiwoo asked. "We'd be hunted across the galaxy. No, we need to resolve this here and now." She turned back to the screen. "Sub-Commander Liss, how many ships in your fleet are now controlled by transformed crews?" 8 of the 19, Liss reported. 3 have already departed, as you know. 5 remain here, including partial control of the flagship. And the others? Still loyal to Admiral Ket, or in conflict between transformed and untransformed crew members. Jiwoo made her decision. "We need to take control of the flagship. If we can capture Admiral Ket, we might be able to prevent the reinforcements from launching." Liss looked doubtful. "The Admiral is well protected. His loyal guards will fight to the death. Then we'll need to be smarter than them," Jiwoo said. She turned to her science officer. "Hyunwoo, is there a way to accelerate the nanite transformation process? Target it specifically at the Admiral's command center?" Hyunwoo thought for a moment. "We could modify the nanites to move more aggressively through air filtration systems. It would be risky. Faster transformation might cause more mental instability in the subjects. But it could work." "Do it," Jiwoo ordered, "and prepare a team to board the flagship. I'll lead it myself." Her officers looked alarmed. "Captain," protested Do-hyun, "that's too dangerous." "Let me go instead." Jiwoo shook her head. "This mission is too important. The future of both our species depends on what happens in the next few hours. I need to be there." On the screen, Sub-Commander Liss nodded with new respect. "We will prepare for your arrival, Captain Park. I will gather all transformed crew members who can be trusted." As the screen went dark, Jiwoo turned to her crew. "Prepare a shuttle. I want a small team. Just myself, Taeyong for security, and Hyunwoo for scientific support. The rest of you will remain here and keep the dauntless horizon ready for immediate departure if things go wrong." The next hour was a blur of activity. Hyunwoo modified the nanites as ordered, creating a new, more aggressive strain. Taeyong prepared weapons and equipment for the boarding mission. The rest of the crew made the ship ready for any outcome. As Jiwoo prepared to board the shuttle, Minji approached her with a small device. "Captain, this is a direct link to our communication system. No matter what happens on the flagship, we'll be able to stay in contact." Jiwoo took the device and tucked it into her uniform. "Thank you, Minji. Keep the channel open at all times." The shuttle journey to the Vraxian flagship was tense but uneventful. As they approached the massive warship, Jiwoo could see signs of the internal conflict. Some sections of the ship were dark, while others showed normal lighting. In some areas, emergency lights flashed, indicating security breaches or battles between crew factions. "They're guiding us to a secondary docking bay," reported Taeyong, who was piloting the shuttle. "Sub-Commander Lis says it's controlled by transformed crew members." The shuttle slipped into the docking bay, which closed behind them. When the air pressure normalized, they opened the hatch to find a group of transformed Vraxians waiting for them. Sub-Commander Lis stood at the front. "Captain Park," she greeted, touching her fist to her chest in a Vraxian salute. "Welcome aboard the Claw of Destiny." Jiwoo returned the salute. "Thank you for your help, Sub-Commander. What's the current situation?" "Deteriorating," Lis replied grimly. "Admiral Ket has ordered all loyal crew members to kill transformed Vraxians on sight. There are battles raging on multiple decks, and he's accelerated the distress call. The battle fleet will arrive in 2 days, not 3. "Then we need to move quickly," Jiwoo said. "Chief Science Officer Hunwoo has prepared an enhanced nanite delivery system. It can target the command center specifically." Lis led them through corridors that showed signs of recent fighting, scorch marks on walls, broken equipment, even dark stains that Jiwoo recognized as Vraxian blood. The transformed crew members moved cautiously, checking each intersection before proceeding. "The command center is 2 decks up," Lis explained as they entered a service tunnel. "It has its own air filtration system, separate from the rest of the ship. That's how the Admiral has kept the nanites out so far. We can use that against him," Hyunwoo said, holding up a small container. "These modified nanites can enter through the smallest openings. Once they're in the system, transformation will begin within minutes." They reached a maintenance access point near the command center. Through a small window, Jiwoo could see Admiral Ket and about 20 officers. They were gathered around a tactical display, planning their defense against the transformed crew members. "This access point connects to their air system," Lis whispered. "But it's sealed from the inside." Hyunwoo examined the seal. "I can bypass it. Give me 5 minutes." As Hyunwoo worked, Jiwoo watched Admiral Ket through the window. The Vraxian leader looked tired but determined. He had fought humans for decades, seeing them only as enemies to be destroyed. Could the nanites really change such deep-seated hatred? "It's ready," Hyunwoo announced, attaching his container to the access point. "Once I activate this, the nanites will flood their air system. Transformation should begin almost immediately." Jiwoo took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. "Do it," she ordered. Hyunwoo pressed a button on the container. A soft hiss was the only indication that anything had happened. Through the window, Jiwoo watched and waited. At first, nothing seemed to change. Admiral Ket continued his planning, unaware of what was happening. Then one of his officers touched his face, looking confused. Another shook his head as if trying to clear it. Within minutes, the first visible signs of transformation appeared. Scales taking on a bluish tint, movements becoming less rigid. Admiral Ket noticed the changes and reacted with fury. He drew his weapon and aimed it at one of the transforming officers. But before he could fire, he staggered, dropping the weapon as he clutched his head. "It's working," Lis whispered. "The Admiral himself is transforming." Jiwoo watched as Ket fell to his knees, his body shaking with the force of the change. The nanites were rewriting his DNA, altering his brain chemistry, changing him at the most fundamental level. It was not a gentle process, especially with the enhanced nanites. "We should enter now," Lis suggested, while they're disoriented. 3 hours had passed since Admiral Ket cut communication with the dauntless horizon. Captain Jiwoo stood at the viewport watching the Vraxian fleet. 5 of the 19 ships had powered down their weapons. On those vessels, the transformation was spreading quickly. "Captain," called Minji from her communication station, "we're receiving a transmission from the hybrid soldiers in our cargo bay." Jiwoo nodded. "Put it through." The main screen lit up, showing the face of squad leader Traz. His features had continued to change. The scales around his eyes had softened and his jaw had become less rigid. His eyes were now fully human-looking, though they retained a golden glow. "Captain Park," Traz said, his voice smoother than before, "my soldiers and I request permission to contact the other transformed Vraxians in the fleet." "For what purpose?" Jiwoo asked. "To coordinate our efforts," Traz explained. "The transformation is spreading, but not without resistance. On some ships, the untransformed Vraxians are fighting back. They don't understand what's happening to them." Jiwoo considered this. The plan had always been to let the nanites spread naturally through the Vraxian fleet. But if the hybrids could help guide the process, perhaps there would be less violence, less fear. "Permission granted," she decided. "But I want to monitor all communications." Traz nodded. "Of course. We have nothing to hide from you, Captain. We are neither fully human nor fully Vraxian now. We exist between worlds, and we must help build the bridge that will connect them." As Traz's image disappeared from the screen, Lieutenant Dohyun approached Jiwoo with a data tablet. "Captain, we've received an update from the repository shuttle," he reported. "They've cleared the danger zone and are proceeding to the rendezvous point. The genetic materials are safe." Jiwoo felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Whatever happened next, humanity's future was secure. The repository contained everything needed to rebuild their species. DNA samples from thousands of humans, plant and animal genetic material, and the technology to create new life. "Good," she said. "And what about our ship? How are the systems holding up?" "All systems functioning normally," Do-hyun replied. "The nanite production facilities are still operating at full capacity. We can continue to produce and distribute them as planned." Jiwoo nodded, satisfied. The Dauntless Horizon had been specially designed for this mission. Beneath its ordinary exterior, the ship housed advanced laboratories and production facilities capable of creating billions of nanites. These microscopic machines were the key to humanity's survival strategy. Not weapons to destroy the Vraxians, but tools to transform them. "Captain," called Tactical Officer Sunwoo suddenly, "we have movement in the fleet. 3 ships are breaking formation." Jiwoo turned back to the viewport. 3 Vraxian cruisers were indeed moving, their engines glowing as they pulled away from the blockade. "Are they pursuing the repository shuttle?" she asked, tension creeping into her voice. Sunwoo shook his head. "No, Captain. They're leaving the area completely, heading in the opposite direction. Those must be ships where the transformation has taken hold," Jiwoo realized. "The hybrids are taking control and removing themselves from Ket's command." As if to confirm her theory, the main screen lit up again, showing a new face. This Vraxian wore the insignia of a ship captain, but his features showed the same changes as Traz's, the softening of scales, the more human-like eyes. "Captain Park," he said. "I am Captain Mev of the cruiser Swift Claw. My crew and I have undergone the transformation your nanites have triggered. We are withdrawing from this conflict." "Captain Mev," Jiwoo acknowledged. "What are your intentions?" "We will spread the truth to other Vraxian ships and colonies," Mev explained. "The transformation brings understanding, not destruction. We see now that the war against humans was based on fear and misunderstanding. There's another path forward." Before Jiwoo could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Sunwoo called out, "Captain, the remaining Vraxian ships are powering up their weapons. They're targeting the departing cruisers." On the screen, Captain Mev looked grim but determined. "Admiral Ket will not let us leave peacefully. He fears what we represent." "Can your ships defend themselves?" Jiwoo asked urgently. "Yes," Mev replied, "but we would prefer not to fight our own kind. Each Vraxian who dies is one who cannot be transformed, one who cannot join us in building a new future." Jiwoo turned to her tactical officer. "Sunwoo, what options do we have? Can we help protect the departing ships?" Sunwoo studied his console. "Our shields are at full strength, Captain. If we position ourselves between Ket's ships and the departing cruisers, we could absorb some of the attack. But it would be risky." Jiwoo didn't hesitate. "Do it. Take us into position." The Dauntless Horizon surged forward, its engines pushing to maximum power. The ship moved to place itself between Admiral Ket's vessels and the 3 departing cruisers. "Captain Mev," Jiwoo said, "we'll cover your escape. Get your ships to safety." Mev's eyes widened in surprise. "You would risk your vessel for us?" "The future we're fighting for includes both our kinds," Jiwoo replied. "If we're going to build it together, We need to start trusting each other now. As the dauntless horizon moved into position, the main screen split to show Admiral Kett's face alongside Captain Mev's. The Admiral's scales had darkened to almost black with rage. "This is your final warning, Captain Park." Kett snarled. "Move your ship or be destroyed along with the traitors." Jiwoo stood tall, her eyes locked on the Admiral's. "We both know you won't destroy this ship, Admiral. Not while the nanites are still aboard. You're afraid they'll spread even further if you blow us apart?" Kett's expression confirmed her words. He was caught in an impossible situation. If he destroyed the dauntless horizon, the explosion might scatter nanites throughout the area, accelerating the very transformation he was fighting against. But if he did nothing, the hybrid ships would escape to spread the transformation to other parts of the Vraxian Imperium. "You've lost, Admiral," Jiwoo continued. "Not because we defeated you in battle, but because we've changed the nature of the conflict. This isn't about destruction anymore, it's about evolution." On the tactical display, Sunwoo reported, "The hybrid ships have cleared the danger zone, Captain. They're preparing to jump to faster-than-light travel." Jiwoo nodded, relief washing over her. "Good, let them go, Admiral." "This is just the beginning." Kett's face contorted with fury. "You think this ends here? The Imperium spans thousands of worlds, millions of ships. Your nanites cannot reach them all." "They don't need to," Jiwoo replied calmly. "The hybrids will carry the transformation with them. Each converted Vraxian becomes a carrier, spreading the nanites to others. It's not a weapon, Admiral, it's a gift. The gift of understanding." As if to prove her point, the screen showed the 3 hybrid ships disappearing into faster-than-light jumps, vanishing from the battlefield to carry their message to the stars. "This is not victory," Kett insisted. "This is merely the beginning of a new phase of the war." "No," Jiwoo said firmly. "This is the end of war and the beginning of something new, something neither of our species could have achieved alone." She turned to look at her bridge crew, the humans who had risked everything for this mission. Then she looked back at Admiral Kett, her eyes filled with determination. "The question now, Admiral, is whether you will fight against the inevitable, or whether you will have the courage to embrace change. Because the transformation is coming for you too sooner or later, and when it does, you'll finally understand what we've been fighting for all along." Kett's only response was to cut the communication once more. But as the screen went dark, Jiwoo knew the truth. The Admiral was running out of options. The transformation was spreading through his fleet, ship by ship, soldier by soldier. The future was already here, and it belonged to those who could adapt. Admiral Kett's face twisted with rage as he watched his soldiers fall to their knees on the security feeds. His yellow eyes narrowed to slits and his scaled skin darkened to a deep green. "What have you done to my warriors?" he demanded, his voice a low hiss. Captain Jiwoo stood calmly before the view screen. "I told you, Admiral. We're changing the rules." On the security feeds, the Vraxian soldiers were no longer falling. Instead, they were getting back to their feet, moving slowly at first, then with growing confidence. But something was different about them. Their scales had taken on a slight bluish tint, and their movements seemed more fluid. "Less reptilian. Impossible," Kett whispered, watching his transformed troops. "The nanites work quickly," Jiwoo explained. "They enter the body and begin rewriting DNA at the cellular level. They don't destroy, they improve. Your soldiers now carry human DNA merged with their own." One of the transformed Vraxians removed his helmet. His face was still mostly reptilian, but his eyes had changed. Instead of the cold yellow of pure Vraxians, they now showed a warm brown with flecks of gold. He looked directly at the security camera and nodded, as if he understood exactly what had happened to him. "You've created monsters," Kett snarled. "No," Jiwoo replied firmly. "We've created a future. These hybrids have the strength and resilience of Vraxians combined with human empathy and adaptability. They're the next step for both our species." On the bridge of the dauntless horizon, Lieutenant Do-Yun monitored the transformation process. "Captain, the nanites have reached all decks. Transformation is proceeding at expected rates. All Vraxian boarding parties are affected." "And our crew?" Jiwoo asked. "Protected by the vaccines we took before the mission," Do-Yun confirmed. "The nanites recognize our modified immune systems and leave us untouched." Jiwoo nodded, satisfied. The plan was working perfectly. 3 years of secret research, countless experiments, all leading to this moment. Humanity couldn't win a conventional war against the Vraxian Imperium. They were too numerous, too powerful. But humans had always been good at finding unexpected solutions. "Admiral," she said, turning back to the screen, "you have a choice to make. The nanites are contained on this ship for now, but they won't stay that way. When your boarding parties return to your vessels, they will not return," Ket interrupted. "I will destroy your ship with my soldiers still aboard rather than allow these abominations to spread." Jiwoo smiled slightly. "I thought you might say that. But there's something you should know." She nodded to Tactical Officer Sunwoo, who pressed a series of buttons on his console. The main view screen split, showing Admiral Ket on one side and a new image on the other. A small, sleek shuttle launching from the underside of the dauntless Horizon. "What is that?" Ket demanded. "That," said Jiwoo, "is the real repository. While your soldiers were busy with our decoy, we loaded the actual genetic materials onto our stealth shuttle. It's now on its way to coordinates that you'll never discover." The Admiral's face contorted with fury. "Destroy that shuttle," he ordered someone off screen. "All ships target the small craft." "You won't find it," Jiwoo said confidently. "Our stealth technology has improved significantly in recent years. By the time your sensors can detect it, it will be long gone." On the bridge, Minji reported from her communications station. "Captain, the shuttle has cleared the blockade. Stealth systems functioning perfectly. No sign of Vraxian pursuit." Jiwoo allowed herself a moment of relief. The most important part of their mission was now safe. Whatever happened next, humanity's genetic legacy would survive. "You've lost, Admiral," she said. "The repository is beyond your reach. And now you face a new problem. What to do about your transformed soldiers?" On the security feeds, the hybrid soldiers had gathered in the main cargo hold. They were communicating with each other, their movements coordinated and purposeful. They no longer seemed interested in destroying the ship or capturing the crew. "I will quarantine this entire sector," Ket declared. "No ship will leave. No communication will escape. Your little experiment will die here." "It's too late for that," Jiwoo replied. "The nanites aren't just on this ship anymore." She nodded to Sunwoo again, who brought up new images on the screen. Tiny objects, barely visible to the naked eye, were floating away from the dauntless Horizon in all directions. Thousands of them, millions perhaps, drifting through space toward the surrounding Vraxian vessels. "Nanite dispersal pods," Jiwoo explained. "We launched them when your boarding parties first arrived. They're programmed to seek out Vraxian life forms. By now they've reached at least 3 of your ships." Ket's eyes widened in horror. "You're bluffing." "Check your medical sensors," Jiwoo suggested. "Look for unusual biological readings among your crews." The Admiral turned away from the screen, barking orders to his officers. When he turned back, his face showed a mixture of rage and fear. "This is an act of war," he said. "No, Admiral," Jiwoo corrected him. "This is an act of peace. The hybrids aren't your enemies. They retain all their memories, all their skills. But they also have something new. The ability to see beyond the endless cycle of conquest and destruction that has defined the Vraxian Imperium." As if to prove her point, the security feeds showed the hybrid soldiers laying down their weapons. One of them, apparently their leader, stepped forward and spoke directly to the camera. "Admiral Ket," he said, his voice a strange blend of Vraxian hissing and human clarity. "I am Squad Leader Traz. I remember who I was. I know who I am now. We are not your enemies, but we cannot continue the war against humans. There is another path." Ket stared at the transformed soldier in disbelief. "Traz was one of my most loyal officers," he said quietly. "He still is," Jiwoo said, "but his understanding has expanded. The nanites don't erase, they enhance. Your soldiers now see the possibility of cooperation instead of conquest." On the bridge, Do-Yun reported, "Captain, we're detecting unusual activity on 3 of the Vraxian ships. Their weapon systems are powering down." "It's starting," Jiwoo said. "The transformation is spreading." Admiral Ket seemed to realize the full extent of what was happening. His fleet was being changed from within, ship by ship, soldier by soldier. The nanites would continue to spread, carried by the hybrid Vraxians to every corner of the Imperium. "You think you've won," he said bitterly. "You think this will end the war?" "I think it gives us a chance," Jiwoo replied. "For the first time since your people discovered Earth, there's a possibility of something other than extinction for one of our species." On the security feeds, more hybrid soldiers were gathering. They moved with purpose toward the ship's communication center. clearly intending to contact their fellow Vraxians on the surrounding vessels. The process can't be stopped now, Jiwoo told the Admiral. The question is, will you fight it and lose everything, or will you adapt as your soldiers are adapting? Ket was silent for a long moment. Then he straightened, his military bearing reasserting itself. This is not over, Captain Park, he said coldly. The Imperium is vast. Your nanites cannot reach every ship, every world. There will be resistance. Of course there will, Jiwoo agreed. Change is never easy, but it is inevitable. As if to emphasize her point, alarms began to sound on Ket's bridge. An officer rushed to his side, speaking urgently in the Vraxian language. Admiral, the officer reported, loud enough for Jiwoo to hear. The transformation has reached our ship. Medical Bay reports the first cases. Ket's eyes met Jiwoo's through the view screen. In that moment, both leaders understood the truth. The war as they had known it was over. Something new had begun. Did you bring enough body bags, Admiral? Jiwoo asked quietly. Or will you embrace the future we've created together? The screen went dark as Ket cut the communication. But the answer was already clear. The transformation had begun and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The first explosion rocked the dauntless horizon as the Vraxians forced their way through the outer airlock. Captain Jiwoo braced herself against her command chair, watching the security feeds on her screen. The lizard-like aliens moved in tight groups, their scaled bodies protected by black armor. Each carried a plasma rifle designed to kill humans quickly. Security teams in position, reported Taeyong, the head of ship security. His face appeared on a small screen to Jiwoo's right. We're ready for them, Captain. Remember the plan, Jiwoo said. Slow them down, but don't take unnecessary risks. Lead them where we want them to go. On the security feeds, the first team of Vraxians moved cautiously down a corridor on Deck 3. They checked each room they passed, their movements practiced and efficient. These were veteran soldiers who had killed humans before. They're heading for the main cargo hold, said Lieutenant Do-hyun. Just as we predicted, Jiwoo nodded. Of course they are. They think that's where we'd keep the repository. She pressed a button on her chair. Chief Science Officer Hyunwoo status report. The screen switched to show Hyunwoo in the true repository chamber 2 decks below the bridge. Unlike the large cargo hold the Vraxians were heading for, this room was small and hidden behind what looked like a standard maintenance panel. Inside, thousands of small containers glowed with soft blue light. All systems normal, Captain, Hyunwoo reported. The repository is secure and ready for transfer. Begin the sequence, Jiwoo ordered. We need to be ready when the time comes. Hyunwoo nodded and turned to the control panel beside him. His fingers moved quickly over the keys, entering a complex code. The blue glow from the containers pulsed once, then settled into a steady rhythm. Transfer sequence initiated, he confirmed. Estimated completion time 15 minutes. Another explosion shook the ship. On the security feeds, Jiwoo saw her crew engaging the first wave of Vraxian boarders. The humans fired their weapons from behind barricades, then fell back to new positions. They weren't trying to stop the aliens, just slow them down and guide them along specific paths. Captain, called Minji from her communications station. Admiral Ket is hailing us again. Put him through, Jiwoo said, straightening in her chair. The main screen lit up with the Vraxian Admiral's face. His yellow eyes burned with anger. Your resistance is pointless, Captain Park, he hissed. My soldiers are already inside your ship. They will find your precious repository and destroy it. The last hope of humanity will die today. Jiwoo kept her face calm. You seem very confident, Admiral, but you still don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand perfectly, Ket replied. We have studied humans for decades. We know your weaknesses, your fears. We know how you think, do you? Jiwoo asked. Then let me ask you something. Why do you think we're fighting so hard to protect this repository? The Admiral's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. Because it contains the genetic material needed to rebuild your species. The DNA samples, the embryos, the seeds of Earth's life forms. Without it, humanity ends with the last living human. Jiwoo smiled slightly. That's partly right, but there's something you've missed. On her private screen, she could see that the Vraxians had reached the fake repository in the main cargo hold. They moved cautiously around the large containers there, scanning them with their devices. Admiral, she said, 3 years ago, when your forces destroyed our colony on Proxima Centauri B, you thought you had dealt humanity a fatal blow, but that attack taught us something important. And what was that? Ket asked, his voice dripping with mockery. that we couldn't beat you with conventional weapons or tactics, Jiwoo said. We needed to change the rules of the game. In the hidden repository chamber, Hyunwoo watched as the transfer reached 40% completion. The blue glow from the containers grew stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat. Captain, he reported over the private channel, the nanite activation sequence is proceeding as planned. The first phase is complete. Back on the bridge, Jiwoo kept her eyes on Admiral Ket. You see, Admiral, after the Proxima attack, our best scientists gathered at a secret facility. They had one mission: find a way for humanity to survive in a galaxy dominated by Vraxians. A waste of effort, Ket said. No weapon you could develop would match the power of the Imperium. Who said anything about a weapon? Jiwoo asked. We didn't build a better gun or a stronger shield. We built a better human. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the Admiral's eyes. What do you mean? On the security feeds, Jiwoo could see the Vraxian boarding parties converging on the fake repository. They had taken the bait perfectly. The repository doesn't just contain human DNA, she explained. It contains our evolution. 3 years of research, thousands of experiments, all leading to one breakthrough: a way to adapt humanity to survive anything, even Vraxians. In the hidden chamber, the transfer reached 75%. The containers began to empty as their contents moved through special conduits built into the ship's structure. Hyunwoo monitored the process carefully, making small adjustments to ensure nothing was lost. Almost there, Captain, he reported. The nanites are primed and ready. On the bridge, Tactical Officer Sunwoo looked up from his station. Captain, the Vraxians have reached the decoy repository. They're setting explosive charges. Jiwoo nodded. Right on schedule. She turned her attention back to Admiral Ket. You should call your boarding parties back, Admiral. For their own safety. You are in no position to make threats, Ket snarled. My soldiers will destroy your repository and end your species once and for all. That's not a threat, Jiwoo said calmly. It's a warning. What's in those containers isn't what you think it is. In the main cargo hold, the Vraxian soldiers finished placing their explosives around the large containers. Their leader gave the order to retreat to a safe distance. They had no interest in examining the contents, only in destroying them. Transfer complete, Hyunwoo reported from the hidden chamber. All systems green. Protocol Lazarus is fully armed and ready. Jiwoo took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been leading to. Initiate Protocol Lazarus, she ordered. Full deployment. Throughout the ship, hidden vents opened in the walls, floors, and ceilings. A fine mist began to spray into the air, invisible, odorless, and spreading rapidly through every deck. On the security feeds, the Vraxians in the cargo hold detonated their explosives. The fake containers burst open, releasing not genetic material but a concentrated cloud of the same mist now filling the rest of the ship. What is happening? Demanded Admiral Ket, watching the feeds from his own ship. What have you done? I told you, Admiral, Jiwoo said. We built a better human. One that could survive in a galaxy with Vraxians. She paused, watching as the mist enveloped the Vraxian boarding parties. Or more accurately, we built a way to make Vraxians part of our solution. The first Vraxian soldier dropped to his knees, his rifle clattering to the floor. Others soon followed, their bodies shaking as the nanites in the mist entered their systems through their skin, their lungs, their eyes. This isn't a weapon, Jiwoo explained. It's the next step in evolution. Microscopic machines programmed with human DNA, designed to merge with compatible life forms. Your soldiers won't die, Admiral. They'll change. Horror spread across Ket's face as he watched his troops collapse one by one. What are you turning them into? Jiwoo's eyes were hard as she answered. Into the bridge between our species. The first generation of something new. Something that carries the best of humanity and the strength of Vraxians. She stood from her chair and walked to the viewport, looking out at the ring of enemy ships. So I'll ask you again, Admiral, she said. Did you bring enough body bags? Because after today, there won't be any pure Vraxians left on your ships, just new beings who understand both our worlds. The transformation had begun, and with it the future of both species would be forever changed. The stars looked cold and distant from the bridge of the dauntless horizon. Captain Jiwoo Park stood tall, her back straight as she watched the enemy ships appear one by one. Each new ship made her heart beat faster, but her face showed nothing. She had trained for this moment her whole life. Captain, we count 15 Vraxian warships now, said Lieutenant Do-hyun from his station. His voice was steady, but his fingers gripped the edge of his console tightly. More are still coming through. Ji-woo nodded without turning away from the large viewport. The Vraxian ships were black against the darkness of space, their hulls shaped like arrowheads. They moved with purpose, spreading out to surround her ship completely. 16, 17, 18, counted Do-hyun. They're forming a full blockade pattern. Officer Minji looked up from her communications panel. Captain, they're trying to contact us. Ji-woo took a deep breath. The weight of her mission pressed down on her shoulders. In the secure hold below, the last hope of humanity waited in thousands of sealed containers. The genetic material of Earth's final generation, DNA samples, embryos, seeds, everything needed to rebuild their species. How many crew on a standard Vraxian cruiser? Ji-woo asked. About 300 per ship, Captain, answered Tactical Officer Sun-woo. If all 19 ships are fully staffed, we're facing approximately 5,700 Vraxians. Ji-woo finally turned to face her bridge crew. 6 humans, the best of the best, looking to her for leadership. Behind them, 80 more crew members worked throughout the ship, each one knowing what was at stake. And how many of us? She asked, though she knew the answer. 86 total, Captain, said Sun-woo. Ji-woo smiled slightly. Unfair odds for them, wouldn't you say? A nervous laugh rippled through the bridge. The tension eased, if only for a moment. They're hailing us again, Captain, Minji reported. They're getting impatient. Let them wait one more minute, Ji-woo said. She walked to her command chair and pressed a button on the armrest. All hands, this is the captain speaking. The Vraxian fleet has found us, as we expected they might. You all know what's at stake. The cargo we carry is the future of humanity. Each of you volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. Now it's time to show these lizards what humans are made of. She paused, looking at each bridge officer in turn. No matter what happens in the next few hours, remember this, Earth may have fallen, but humanity will survive. That is our mission. That is our promise. She released the button and nodded to Minji. Now I'll speak with them. The main screen flickered to life, showing the scaled face of a Vraxian commander. His yellow eyes narrowed as he saw Ji-woo. The translator converted his hissing speech into human language. Captain Park of the rogue vessel. Dauntless Horizon, the Vraxian said. I am Admiral Ket of the Vraxian Imperium. Your ship is surrounded. Your species is defeated. Surrender now and hand over the genetic repository you carry. Ji-woo stood from her chair, facing the screen directly. Admiral Ket, I've heard of you. You led the attack on the Saturn colonies. 10,000 human civilians dead. The Vraxian's mouth formed what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. 15,000, actually. Your memory fails you. My memory is perfect, Ji-woo replied coldly, as is my understanding of Vraxian biology. Tell me, Admiral, do you know why humans survived on Earth for so long despite all the disasters we faced? Ket made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Your history lessons do not interest me, human. Surrender your ship or we will take it by force. We survived because we adapt, Ji-woo continued as if he hadn't spoken. When faced with new threats, humans change, we evolve. We overcome. She leaned closer to the screen. The Vraxian Imperium has been hunting us for 20 years. You've destroyed our colonies, bombed our cities, and driven us to the edge of extinction. But you've never truly understood us. What I understand is that your ship contains the last significant collection of human genetic material, Ket said. Once we destroy it, your species will be unable to recover. You will join the 17 other races that the Imperium has cleansed from the galaxy. Behind Ji-woo, her crew worked quietly, their fingers flying over control panels. Sun-woo caught her eye and gave a small nod. The ship's special systems were ready. You're right about one thing, Admiral, Ji-woo said. This ship does carry humanity's future, but you're wrong if you think we'll let you destroy it. She nodded to Minji, who pressed a series of buttons on her console. Throughout the ship, hidden compartments opened. Special devices activated. Their power signatures masked from Vraxian sensors. Your boarding parties will be launching soon, I assume? Ji-woo asked. Ket looked surprised for a moment, then recovered. They are already on their way. Surrender now, and I may allow your crew to live as servants. Ji-woo laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet bridge. I have a counteroffer, Admiral. Turn your fleet around and leave this sector. Pretend you never found us. The Vraxian scales darkened with anger. You are surrounded by 19 warships. You have no weapons that can harm us. Your engines cannot outrun us. What possible leverage do you have to make such demands? Jiwoo walked back to the viewport and looked out at the ring of enemy ships. When she spoke again, her voice was calm and certain. 3 years ago, when the Vraxians destroyed our last major colony on Proxima Centauri b, humanity made a decision. We would not go extinct. We would not surrender. Instead, we would change. She turned back to the screen. The repository on this ship isn't just a collection of DNA samples, Admiral. It's the next stage of human evolution, engineered specifically to survive in a galaxy where Vraxians exist. For the first time, uncertainty showed in Ket's eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying that we expected to be found eventually. We prepared for it. Jiwoo's smile grew wider. The question isn't whether we'll survive this encounter. The question is whether you will. On the tactical display, small dots appeared, representing Vraxian boarding shuttles approaching the dauntless horizon from multiple directions. Your boarding parties will be here soon, Jiwoo said. So I'll ask you one more time to reconsider. Or at the very least, she peered through the viewport at the approaching ships and said with deadly calm, "Did you bring enough body bags?" Ket snarled and cut the communication. The screen went dark. Boarding shuttles will dock in approximately 3 minutes, reported Do-hyun. All 20 access points are being targeted. Jiwoo returned to her command chair. Seal all internal bulkheads. Deploy security teams as planned. Activate Protocol Lazarus on my mark. She looked around at her crew, these brave humans who had volunteered for what might be humanity's final mission. Remember your training, she told them. The Vraxians think they're hunting us. They don't realize they're walking into our trap. As the first boarding shuttle locked onto the hull with a dull thud that echoed through the ship, Jiwoo gave the order that would change the course of the war and the future of both species. Mark. Throughout the dauntless horizon, hidden systems hummed to life. The trap was set. The next phase of humanity's survival had begun. Jiwoo nodded and Taeyong forced the door open. They entered the command center to find all the Vraxians in various stages of transformation. Some were unconscious, others were sitting quietly, looking at their changed hands with wonder. Admiral Ket was still on his knees, his breathing heavy. Jiwoo approached him slowly. "Admiral," she said quietly. Ket looked up and Jiwoo was startled by what she saw in his eyes. The cold yellow had warmed to amber and there was something new there, understanding, perhaps even the beginning of empathy. "Captain Park," he said, his voice rough. I feel different," Jiwoo finished for him. "You're seeing the world through new eyes now." Ket struggled to his feet. "The hatred. It's still there, but there's something else too. I remember why we fought, but I also see alternatives." "That's the human part of you," Jiwoo explained. "We evolved to see possibilities, to imagine different futures. Combined with Vraxian strength and determination, it creates something new, something better than either of us alone." Ket moved to the command console and placed his hand on the scanner. The screen lit up, recognizing his authority. "The distress call," he said. "The battle fleet, can you cancel it?" Jiwoo asked. Ket worked the controls. "Done," he said simply. Then he turned to face Jiwoo fully. "What happens now, Captain? What future do you see for our new kind?" Jiwoo looked around the command center, at the transformed Vraxians who were watching her with new eyes. Then she looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. "I see a future where we explore the galaxy together," she said. "Not as conquerors but as discoverers, not as enemies but as a single people with a shared destiny." She held out her hand to Admiral Ket, a human gesture of peace and partnership. After a moment's hesitation, he took it. "Did you bring enough body bags, Admiral?" Jiwoo asked softly. "Or will you help us build enough cradles instead?" Ket's transformed face showed the first hint of a smile. "Cradles," he said. "Definitely cradles." And with that simple word, the war that had nearly destroyed humanity came to an end. Not with a final battle, but with a new beginning. Not with death, but with transformation. Not with hatred, but with hope. The future would not be easy. There would be resistance, conflict, challenges to overcome. But as Jiwoo looked at the transformed admiral and his crew, she knew that humanity had found its path forward. Not by fighting the Vraxians, but by becoming something new with them. It was, she thought, the most human solution of all.